Alright, it's your boy No Tail Ninja back at it again with another review, and these chapters have been going absolutely crazy. This chapter especially, because the boy Deku is not looking good. We have a return of some of the fan favorite characters, or, the characters that are just sort of there, and some crazy developments that we gotta talk about. But before I get into it, make sure you guys like and subscribe. You know the deal, help a boy out, especially since I'm super close to 500. And let's get into talking about today's chapter. So we pick up following the shocking revelation from last chapter that All For One is still alive inside Shigaraki's core. We come back to the scene of him eating Shigaraki's consciousness as he looks upon Deku, well, as much as you could look upon Deku without having eyes, as he says, "Izuku Midori, look at what you've done to my one-for-all and dear Yuichi. But it is thanks to you for your efforts of changing Tanko's unconscious mind that I've been able to regain control." So Deku kind of inadvertently helped All For One without knowing it by trying to save Shigaraki, which is kind of messed up. But speaking of Shigaraki, we actually see him inside the All For One vestige as he's starting to crumble and fall apart, as All For One continues to mock him by saying, "Oh my foolish Shimura Tanko, no more than a super ego, you cling to the pathetic strands of your so-called life, too afraid to pass on. How dare you bite the hand that raised you?" As Shigaraki, still confused as to what the hell is happening right now, says, "Master, what do you mean? I don't understand a thing." "I told you already, none of your decisions are ever belong to you. If I didn't let you think so, you could have never attained the necessary willpower. It was essential to travel backwards from free will." As he begins to break down his evil plan here, because the typical villain thing, that apparently after his encounter with Daigoro Banjo as well as En, that he realized that he needed to surpass the willpower in order to be able to steal One For All. So after he realized that All Might had the vestige and was culminating the power and making it more powerful, he decided to work on Plan B, which was creating a vestige that was capable of taking the quirk itself. So hence he ran into Nana Shimura's son. But unfortunately, he wanted to go for Shigaraki's sister, but it seemed like she was too well-natured, so he didn't want to draw attention to himself, so he came up with a backup plan. And he doesn't say it here, but it's more or less implied that he convinced Nana Shimura's son to have another kid, which was Shigaraki. And before his quirk could even manifest, he actually stole Shigaraki's original quirk. And it actually amplified his control because now he's going through the same experience that Deku has, where he wants to be a hero, but he can't because he doesn't have a quirk. So he waited for the right moment, which we actually see the moment where Shigaraki was walking home with the man who brought him home that day, which, what the hell is his face?
He needs some milk!
And that's actually the moment that he gave Shigaraki the decay quirk. And that's when he drops the biggest truth bomb that I don't even think I was prepared for, but apparently the quirk that he originally had was actually Overhaul's quirk, but he took it and copied it and took out the aspect of creation that came with it and just gave him the power of destruction. So this whole time Shigaraki has been walking around with Overhaul, not actually decay. And this shock absolutely devastates Shigaraki. He is realizing that every single thing he has believed was for nothing. He was just a pawn in somebody else's game all along, and that was one of his biggest fears, because when All For One first took over his body, he was promised that he wouldn't be a pawn, and he was trying his best to be the king of this game, but unfortunately he played his cards and it seems he lost. And now this truth bomb seemed to be all it needed for Shigaraki to finally start to wither away, as All For One exclaims, "I'll kill his soul and delete him. I plan to use this card after stealing One For All, but I guess now it's time. Vanish from my body." As Shigaraki just straight up explodes, sending Deku, who was in the vestige world, flying right out of it. And this explosion seems to also be happening in the real world, as we come to see that someone is saying, "Yuichi is gone. My midterm plan has failed," as we actually get to see the new form of All For One, and he looks like a weird mix of both him and Shigaraki combined. He looks like an older version of Shigaraki, but to be honest, he kind of looks like Vecna from Stranger Things. As he shapes a hand from his body somehow and forms the same kind of hand over his mouth that Shigaraki had before. And he says it seems like the psychological damage from their battle with Deku in the vestige world has reflected on the real body. And it seemingly now Shigaraki is dead, and he wanted to do that after receiving One For All, so now he can't. And it also seems that Yuichi is nowhere to be found inside that vestige world. So all of his plans were essentially for naught. He didn't get the vessel and he didn't get All For One. So it's time to just move on to his final goal, which is world domination. But unfortunate for him, Deku is not going to give up that easy. But Deku tries to stand up, and something seems odd. Deku writhes around in pain, and we look down to see he's missing his f***ing arms. Which I'm gonna put that on my checklist, because I mentioned that from last video, but this is still a crazy sight to see. I don't even know how much of this I can show you actually. But as Deku struggles to stand up, All For One is just like, hey, yo, this is it. And Deku is just fighting back tears, he's trying his best, but All For One delivers his cold villain line as usual, and he's like, people become stronger and proportionate to their loss. I plan to establish that narrative. This was an inevitable outcome for someone who never had anything to lose as he goes in to lay down the final blow on Deku. And my god, this is looking rough. And also, I wanted to add this here. There's a little panel on the side here that says it's not over. It's kind of darked out, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. It could be because of the reveal at the end of the chapter, but it also could be something happening internally with All For One, but I figured I was going to mention it here. But hope is not lost yet as the boy Sero comes out of the cut and grabs All For One's hand, pulling him back from destroying Deku. As All For One is shocked because he's like, oh crap, this kid was so weak I didn't even notice him pulling up. But before he could even process what's happening, the boy Sero's like, Deku, we're here to save you. As Sugar Rush and the boy Ojiro come up and hit All For One with a massive attack. As they seem battle-worn, because we saw them like several chapters ago, but it was a very, very small panel. As even Deku's surprised at what's happening, but as he looks onto the battle, someone steps in right behind him, and he says Midoriya. And it's the boy Aizawa as he's saying, keep calm, sorry to keep you waiting. As Hope emerges from the warp gate, and it's crazy. But before I go on my crazy ass rant, I gotta give this a rating, and I think it's pretty obvious this is another 10 out of 10 chapter.
Perfect!
I didn't think I would be giving this many things a 10 out of 10 because I'm really a stickler, but this chapter was pretty good, and I was actually super excited to be able to record this one for the first time, which I haven't had in a lot of other chapters because I've never seen such a development like this. And to be honest, the whole Shigaraki versus Deku thing has been going really well, so I feel weird giving out so many high ratings, but this is not the norm. If y'all seen my previous videos, I'm not this light on usually criticism, but this has been pretty amazing in my opinion. And let me pop another thing off my checklist, which I'm not gonna lie, a lot of stuff I said on my last video is pretty obvious gonna happen, but I'm still knocking off the checklist. The boy Aizawa is back, and I kind of hope they just do like the quick spark notes of what happened while they were on the other side. I would hate to do like another 5 to like 6 chapter turn away to figure out what all transpired, but I hope to gosh that we actually get to see the vigilante heroes pop up. I was talking to my friend about that, and we were like, if them vigilante heroes don't come out this portal, this chapter is not gonna look as good in my eyes down the line. And it's coming from someone that hasn't even like read Vigilante all that much. But I swear, if they don't pop out of that portal, I'm gonna be pissed. Because I think that at the end of Vigilantes, it says straight up that like the story will continue in MHA. And there was no sign of how that was gonna happen. But seeing this, I'm kind of like, this could potentially be how it happens. Because the Vigilante heroes do have some connection to Shirakumo. So maybe that might happen. But let's see if I can knock that off my checklist. And I'm so glad to be seeing some, not necessarily fan favorite, but characters that I didn't really think got a lot of limelight in the story, finally getting some major limelight for this big battle, because they were kind of sidelined. I thought we were just never going to see them again. And maybe we could see some of the other characters, like I still want Overhaul to return to the story. I swear if that needs to happen, especially now knowing that Shigaraki has his quirk the whole time. And I definitely think that we also need to have some of the teachers show back up into the story, because outside of Aizawa, a lot of the teachers haven't really done anything spectacular for the story since the inception. And I also want to add, I don't think Shigaraki is dead here. Well, I think Shigaraki is dead here, but I think that Shimura is still inside the vestige, because when we looked at it before, him and Shimura are like two completely different personalities, probably because they're not the same quirk factor exactly. Like Shimura is his own shell, I guess, left after taking the quirk, and Shigaraki is this personality that's formed from all the trauma that he received that night. And the story has kind of emphasized that a lot, so I think that that would potentially be how Shimura returns to the story. And I definitely don't think that all the vestiges from One For All are gone. I think they're going to come back in some way, or maybe they'll fight All For One internally, because I thought that that would make the most sense for Yuichi and All For One to have their final battle somehow. And now that Deku is missing his arms, how is he going to continue to battle? Because he's still the protagonist of this story. And I know that they do say that everyone became a hero eventually, but Deku's still like supposed to be one of the biggest heroes of all time. So I kind of wonder how he's going to end up fighting. Maybe we'll actually see him use the shoot style, because I always thought that kind of weird that you focus so heavily on him learning shoot style, then he proceeds to fight just like All Might for the remainder of the time. I thought that That was a little weird, but maybe we could actually see that aspect of the story come back into play now that he's missing his arms. He kind of has to do shoot style. But so much left to speculate, so much going on. I'm super hyped. Like, this is the most hyped I've ever been reading a chapter because it gave that right level of grittiness that I always think that this manga is missing, as well as like hopeful and action. I thought it was a perfect blend of all of those different elements, and I'm super excited to see where this goes next chapter, and I hope they keep this momentum going all the way to the end. If they keep this through, give the characters the limelight they have it have like a reasonable ending, then this will definitely be my favorite series of all times. But a lot of mangas kind of dropped the ball towards the end, so let's see how that goes. But I'm kind of banking on this will be one of the greatest, and I'm going to defend it even when people say, oh, MHA is lame. I don't care. But anyway, that's all I got to say for now. So you stay safe, my ninjas, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Peace.